Hey, 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 everybody. Today we are going to get the scoop on everything that went into building the incredible career of none other than Michelle Oliver. Michelle has an immense amount of different experiences. I think it's really a great story that you're going to hear from her, how she's kind of evolved from, a stylist behind the chair to starting to work as an educator, platform artist, and really kind of evolving her career to the point that she's now full-time, not only education, managing content for Schwarzkopf Professional. We're going to get into her entire story. I just want to say, Michelle, thank you so much in advance for taking some time out to share your experiences and your learnings with all of us here on the Salon Scoop podcast.
Thank you so much, Scott. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and it's been a long time since we've been able to catch up. I think we met way back, if I'm not mistaken, at a Chatters event.
Yeah,
way back in the day. But I love how our industry is so close knit that everybody kind of continues to sort of move and cross paths in different ways, and it's always fun. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm going to start you off. We start every one of our shows with an S.O.S signature question. So I'm going to start you off on this one. Michelle, if you could do any celebrity's hair that you have not already done, who would it be and why?
Oh my goodness. Okay. I don't know if this is going to be like cliche or cheesy, but I would almost die to do J-Lo's hair. I'm just obsessed. Oh. Who isn't? But as a sort of different perspective, I think Diana Ross would be pretty incredible.
Intriguing. Yeah, lots of hair to work with there.
Yeah, I think the texture, the volume, like playing with like big shows and events and like really going big with hair is so fun. So yeah, I'd want to do somebody's hair that really lets you play up to the sort of big celebrity that they are.
Yeah, love that. Love that. Are you the type of stylist that just loves an open canvas when you used to work in the salon with clients where they would just say, you know what, work your magic and do whatever you want? Was that something that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I did, but I think I disappointed them in my consultation process, but then I would nail it in the end. Because people who say that to me, I think they're looking for you to just go, awesome, I'll just do anything right there in that moment. But when someone says that to me, I get so excited, but then I turn it around. I'm like, I've got some questions for you. You're not off the hook here. So then I go through a really good consultation. And if they're really true about letting me do anything, then it's probably, one of my favorite things to do. As long as they're willing to answer the questions that I need to make it awesome for both of us, because that is always my goal.
Yeah, love that. Love that. I mean, you still have to kind of get a sense of what the expectations sort of are, right? So
totally. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we're going to learn a lot about your various experiences and key learnings that you can, sort of share with others in the industry. But first, Michelle, maybe I think our listeners would love to get to know you a little bit better. Could you start by just sharing with us how you got into the beauty industry, a little origin story? Who were you? Where were you, and what was the trigger to get into the world of beauty?
I mean, I was small. I was a small town girl. I still am. I say in my heart. I come from a town. It's not, well, when you're in rural Alberta, they don't think this is small, but for Ontario, it's a small town north of Toronto called Bracebridge in Muskoka. It's about 10,000 people. I grew up there, and it was like one of those really sweet sort of like stories when you're a kid and you start doing hair, and then you say when you're like 7, I'm going to be a hairdresser. And that's kind of where I really I thought that and said that even when I was a little girl. But as I grew up, I sort of got, you get older, you get into high school, you're starting to plan your career. And there's a really big push for college, university, and traditional paths. And I would say hairdressing it wasn't something that my guidance counselor or anyone really recommended to me. And it sort of went to the wayside. But ultimately what happened is I had planned on going to university pretty much my whole high school career, but really had no idea what I was passionate about. And I always remained passionate about hair. And so when it came down to it, I wasn't sure. I I had 6 universities, different programs, like everything from accounting to biology to general arts to, I think there was like criminal science at the time. Like I literally did everything and had no idea. And I was afraid to become a hairdresser because I didn't feel, I felt insecure about it. Which maybe a lot of people can relate to. You know, you're trying to make that decision, and maybe you're supposed to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. So I was a little bit insecure about it, but I ended up taking some time off. I traveled in Europe with my best friends for 3 months, and I just felt like, you know, there's such a bigger world, and who cares what anybody else thinks? I know that I'm passionate about this, and I'd rather go with my heart. And my parents were very supportive. I think that was a huge key. So I did decide, after traveling Europe, taking some time off, I came back and I was like, you know, I'm gonna go with where my passion is. And if it doesn't work out, I can always, you know, I can always make a different change later. So I went to hair school in Ottawa at Versailles Academy, an awesome little hair school in Ottawa, just because I love Ottawa. I just wanted to get out of my little town. And yeah, so I went to Ottawa and I made some amazing friends there. Started in hair school there and took makeup as well, which was awesome. And yeah, and then I was in the salon. Even when I was in hair school, I worked in the salon like right away, and it was awesome. I remember thinking, like once I was in the salon, I felt that was huge. Once I got into the salon, I was working. I was like, this was the best decision. And when I would come back to my little town and everybody would be doing what they were doing at college or university, and I was doing what I was doing, I felt so happy and so passionate that everyone was so excited for me. Like all those insecurities that I had going into it, I felt like sort of disappeared.
That is a really, really amazing story. And it's nice that you had the support of your family, of your parents. Obviously, like
Yeah.
that's not always the case for some people that, you know, make the choice. So it can be
Hmm.
a little bit more difficult. But one thing I
Yeah.
want to touch on that you said, which I love, is that you decided to follow your passion and just go for it and see what happens,
Yeah.
knowing that if it didn't work out, you could always make a change later on. And I find that people take almost like some of these decisions way too seriously. They think they have to have it all figured out, you know, but
Yeah.
they're only 18, 19,
Yeah.
20, 22. You know, you have your whole life ahead of you, and, you know, you could do something for 5, 10 years, and it, you know, maybe it doesn't work out, but you're still in your, you know, late 20s or early 30s, and you have so much time
Yeah.
to, you know, make a change and find something else that you're passionate about. So don't be shy. That's always a message that I like to put out there, is don't be shy, don't be scared of just
Mm.
trying things. And you can always make a change later on if it doesn't work out. So good
I
for you. I
totally
love that.
agree.
Love that story. All right, I'm going to jump, you know, sort of fast forward a lot, because one of the things that we really want to get out of from you today and your experience is your amazing work in terms of photo shoots and the collections that you've done, and, you know, all the
Mm.
awards. I didn't list them earlier because there's too many. There's too many to mention.
Aw,
But for
yeah.
those that don't know, I mean, Michelle is a multiple, you know, Contessa Mirror Awards winner. You know, year after year, she's a staple on the, you know, on the stage, going up to collect trophies. And I think it's, I'm curious to know, actually, how old were you when you did your very first photo shoot?
I would have been
Or like how early
20.
into your career? We don't need to talk about age
Yeah.
numbers, but
Yeah, yeah. Come on now, Scott. Yeah, so I first got into the industry. It's been 20 years. So when I was first starting, I really focused behind the chair. I did not compete, but I worked at this incredible salon, and the mentor that I had, who was the manager at the salon, Grace Camel Fortier, she's a very fancy name. We're still in touch to this day, but she had reviews with me every 3 months, and I would work on things that she felt that I needed to work on. I often agreed. I was like, "You're right," and she really helped make sure that I was a well-rounded stylist. And after about a couple of years being behind the chair, I really had already developed a pretty strong clientele. Like I would say, about 3 years in, I was pretty fully booked for a couple of months, straight like out of hair school. So I felt, you know, my day to day was strong. I loved my clients. But at that time, I already, and maybe some hairdressers feel like this too, is that, it's just, there was a mundaneness, and that sounds so bad because I'm so passionate about it. But there's something about, that shift, that start, that finish, that root retouch, that highlight, and then it's just over and over and over. And I just thought to myself, I do love this, but I want 20 years, 40 years in this industry. And so I was looking for something to make sure that I stayed passionate and that I felt excited, daily about what I was doing. And so, I was explaining this to my mentor, and she said, I think you need to get into competitions. Because I had already been taking tons of education, and I loved education. That was like, I couldn't get enough of it. And it wouldn't matter if it was just like a PK class in my salon. I was like chomping at the bit to ask questions, and like, I just loved it. But also, academy classes and going to our Schwarzkopf Academy in Toronto. I did a lot of classes and training there. But ultimately, I think the competition work, that was just something I never really had thought about before, and I was truly scared to do. But my mentor, thought it was a really good idea. And I was like, I decided to give it a try. And at that time, that was actually on stage. Like, if you recall, like, I'm going to say like old school ABA, like you're on stage, you have 45 minutes. It's like loud music's playing and you do this crazy hairstyle, right? You know the days.
Yeah.
So long story short, I did start with that kind of competition, which went well for me. I did well, and it was very confidence boosting. And I started with the Schwarzkopf competitions that they were doing at the time on stage. And, but then I did my first photo shoot, and I'm not going to lie, like that was like magic. I went from doing stage competitions to having where you have no time and your heart is pounding out of your chest. And it's a huge adrenaline rush, but I'm such a perfectionist. So when I did a photo shoot, I got to spend all the time that I wanted doing every little detail exactly how I wanted to do it, and bringing this vision that I had, to life, and then having a beautiful image to walk away. Like, I fell absolutely in love. And I would say that was 4 years into the industry. I entered the Contessas. I entered for newcomer of the year. And I made semi-finalists, which is like top 20 or something. And I didn't make finalists. But just seeing my name on that semi-finalist list was enough to be encouraging. And so I kept going after that. So it's been 16 years since my first shoot.
Love it. Love it. And I'm curious how, and I want you to sort of tell this in a way that, would make sense for others in the industry that are, either doing photo shoots or are considering doing photo shoots. Actually, I guess, first of all, like, would you recommend to the, newer generation of stylists that they get into photo shoots, or how do you know if it's something that's for you or not?
Yeah, sorry. I think my friend just gave me, you're there. Okay. Sorry. I just cut out there for a minute. Yes. So times have changed quite a bit since I first started competing. And at that time, it was one of the only ways to get your work seen or recognized, was through competition work or in print in a magazine. Like, social media was very, I didn't have Instagram when I first started, like I barely had a cell phone. But so now, even though you can become known and get credibility for your work just through social media platforms, there's still the photo shoot work. It's still, and it's video as well now, right? Like, it's photo, and then it's also, we all are looking for that next piece that is more engaging. And so video really comes into that as well, in terms of creating content. But even the hairdresser today, I think every stylist, if they have, if they want to be really capturing and pushing their work and their skills, so capturing their work and their skills and pushing themselves to be better, I don't think there's a better way to do it. like a shoot of any kind. And that means, even with your cell phone, you don't need to start. This is the great part about technology. And, you don't need to start by hiring the most expensive photographer and having all of these pieces and spending, $10,000. You
Yeah.
can just book a model and take the shot with your cell phone and capture some content and push yourself to try something new. So I think all hairdressers could I guess, learn more about themselves, their skills, and also it brings a little bit of excitement and a whole other piece of your talent as an artist, because when we're behind the chair, you're in service of the person in your chair and in the best way possible. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful jobs that you could have is to be a hairdresser. I really believe that. But when you do something for yourself, it opens up this other piece of you. So it allows you to dream. Like you can daydream about hair that you want to create and then make it happen or try and then learn from that. Mm-hmm.
That is so well said. Yeah, so well said. Such a great perspective. Okay, so let's give some tips out there to people again who either are already doing photo shoots or are thinking about it. What are some of your top tips that you would recommend that people hairdressers need to think about to implement and create a successful photo shoot?
Well, it's such a big question. And
take it, you can sort of take it from start to finish a little bit, right? Because there's a lot of components.
I think if you're, let's go with a collection, because that is where you're entering competitions. Oftentimes it's 3 to 5 images in a collection. If you're doing, a single shot, then it can be a little bit more simplified. But once you get into more than one photo, you have to think about the story of that collection. But the first thing that I say to people who are interested, and are usually very scared, is is the number one, just pick a date and commit to it, because everything starts from there. Once you have that date in your calendar, you can then get the makeup artist and see if they want to do it, or get your friend or the person who works at the salon or whatever it is that you're, whoever you want to partner with and collaborate with. But in a professional photo shoot environment, picking that date and really thinking about, is that a good time for you? Are you gonna have the time to prepare for that? Like if it's your wedding the week before, maybe don't do it at that next week. So yeah, like really look at the schedule and pick a date that is gonna be the best for you. Then you can start building everything from there. So your makeup artist, your photographer, and your wardrobe. So you have like these elements, right? So you have to have the makeup, the wardrobe is key, and your photographer, of course, is such a huge piece of that story. So start building that team and looking for who you want to work with. And then you can start looking for models as well, because your model selection, you want to I look for models 100% of the year. Like when I'm in a restaurant, I see somebody with like great hair, I will ask gently, like being a female, asking a female, it's a little less, it's a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, so but I would even recommend making little cards like, hey, do you want to be a model for me with your professional handle and things like that? Because you can just start building a roster of people to be models. I think that's one of the biggest struggles, is finding models who are willing to cut and color their hair the way that you want. And I have models like
Michelle, it doesn't work nearly as well for me when I go up to a girl in a restaurant and say, "Oh my gosh, you have such beautiful hair. I want you to be my muse."
Yeah, totally. You gotta work a different angle there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I feel like one of my models, who still is one of my models today, just in my last collection that I collaborated with, my partner that we work together now is Quinn Enright. So one of our models, she was the model for my very first winning collection. Like it's been 10 years I've been doing her hair for shoots. So you just never know. And she worked at Starbucks. She was a coffee barista at Starbucks. So just like, you got to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit and be able to approach people and maybe get over a little bit of that. If you're a little bit introverted or shy, that can be really hard to do. But the more that you do it, the better and more comfortable that you're going to feel about it. So get those models together, book the date, develop, get the team together. And then it's really coming up with that concept and making sure that everybody understands what that concept is. So whether it's very simple, white background, white clothing, I would suggest start more simple. You can't start at 1,000. Like, you need to start simple and then focus on the hair. Then you can start building in wardrobe and other concepts. That would be a definite tip for me, because sometimes it's just your eyes, or I don't know who said this to me, but I always think about it. So your eyes are hungrier than your hands can produce. So what you see, you just start thinking, and you've got all these ideas, and it becomes very like, I can do all of this. But then when you get to actually physically doing it, maybe you still have skills to work on, and you have to be really humble. This happens to me even now. I'll see something and be like, I really need to work on that before I do that on a set, because maybe I'm not quite there yet skill wise. Like, I'm always working on my skills. So yeah, so coming up with that concept that's realistic for you. Start simpler and build from there. You can always become better, and that's the fun of it. If you just started off perfect, like, then what? There's no fun in that. You want to get better.
Yeah. You want to keep evolving, right? And it's going to happen. It's going to happen very naturally. So I'm curious, I mean, you've done so many shoots over the years. Do you have a favorite collection that you've done that you still sort of think back about and be like, oh, that one's really special to me?
I do, and even now to this day, I'll look at this collection and be like, that's really pretty. I really like that. But yeah, it actually is my very first Contessa win was in 2015. So yeah, I guess that's 8 years ago now. And I just absolutely love that collection. It won Alberta Stylist of the Year and Multicultural Stylist of the Year in one night. I'd never won a Contessa before, but it's not because I won that I love it. I just love it. It's beautiful. It's probably my favorite. And then actually one more the year later. So I'm still chasing that. I love my collection this year too. It's great. I love them all. But yeah, so that one, I kind of had this like really soft, muted. It's funny, sometimes Schwarzkopf Professional will launch these color line extensions, and I'll just use that for my collection because I'm like, oh, these are, this is inspiring me right now because they're new. So I worked with, it was a metallics line extension that time. So it was all like dusty, muted, soft. And so the collection is very, very clean, very ethereal looking, and it had a Game of Thrones vibe to it. And that's that was like the huge show that was on TV at that time. So yeah, I remember that there was a model on set that I did. Her name was Britt. She's such a sweetheart. She modeled for me a few times. I teared. That was the first time I teared up. Like when they took the first photo, I just couldn't believe what was happening. And that was like, I couldn't believe that was my work. I knew it was next level. I knew I had reached a new place, and it was just physically like body chills, and just I couldn't believe it. I almost had to walk away. Everyone was excited. We were screaming. We were like, it's just so exciting. There's just nothing like it. And then it ended up being a really successful collection. Yeah.
And obviously you knew it's crazy. Like, I mean, I'm not a hairstylist myself, but you just gave me chills, telling that story. That's really phenomenal, because sometimes when you're in it and you just know that this is a special moment when you're actually doing it. That's really phenomenal. Yeah. Is there a place where our listeners, viewers could go to check out that initial collection? Does it live somewhere right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's on my Instagram page a few times, like even since 2015. So even if you scroll back a bit, or even look up 2015 Contessa hairdresser or Alberta stylist, I'm sure will still come up. It's still online. It's on Pinterest. It really did well. It was a really great little collection. And I do want to say that was 2015. So I think I started my first collection, that first kick at the can was like 2005 maybe. So you're looking at almost 10 years to get to that point. And I think the thing that people see is, like I said, your eyes are so hungry, but you got to put the time in. And that's such a beautiful experience. Like, I would never exchange that 10 years to get to that point where that it became to that level for me. Like it's a lot of work, and you have to just keep going back and keep looking at what you did and try to outdo yourself, and really focus on just what do you love? What are you proud of? I always think that when I do a shoot, I'm like, I want to look at my image and I want to be super proud of that. Meaning I want to show like my artistic team. I want to be like, look at that, like I want to be happy and excited for me. And then generally, if you just keep going at it and be really honest, maybe get some feedback from someone who really knows, not from everybody, because your friends will just tell you that it's awesome. And
Of
you want
course.
that.
Yeah.
You want your friends to tell you that it's
and your
awesome.
mom too.
And your mom. Yeah, 100%. And your boyfriend, and everybody's going to go, that's amazing. But you need to find it, and that's great. You want that. You don't want those people to tell you it's not good. Even if they think it, you want them to tell you it's great. Yeah. But then you find someone who really knows, someone who has the eye, the experience. And I would say reach out. I mean, lots of people have reached out to me over my time to see if I would take a minute to chat with them. And I do it almost every single time. As long as I have the time, I'll do it. But have someone who you really respect so that they can give you some honest feedback. Take a couple of things. You can't change the world in one day. Take a couple of things, work on those things, and keep going.
Love it. So yeah, a couple of things that I'm going to sort of touch upon here that you've talked about, I think is so important. It took you almost 10 years before you really won your first like major award. And it's not about, I think what's important is you shouldn't be doing it just to win, the Contessa, and because it's so much about the personal growth that comes through the process of discovering things about yourself. So, if you don't, if you enter and you don't make even semifinals, you don't make finals in a couple of years, like don't give up, because you shouldn't be doing it for the end trophy. You should be doing it because it's allowing you to grow as a hairdresser, as an individual, to discover new things about yourself, to expand on your creativity. And I think when you look back after 10 years, whether you've won awards or not, you're going to see such amazing and enriching sort of just experiences that you've been able to have through it. I think that's the most important learning that I hear from it. Would you agree?
So well said. 100%. And yeah, that just really is, it makes everything so much more meaningful in the long run. And I think people sometimes feel really discouraged. I mean, I've had multiple, so after that first semifinalist that I got, newcomer, I think I shot 2 or 3 more times, and the first 2 times, no semifinals at all, no semifinals, no finals, nothing, just crickets. Right. So you're sitting there with your collection, like you have no feedback. So that's why it really has to be, about you. And then after a while, you kind of can figure out what's needed. And here's the thing, like I know I'm in a competition, it's not to say that you're not, really trying to understand. You need to understand the category. You need to understand the rules. You need to understand and develop your eye. This is one of the most important, and it's so hard to explain, but it just takes time. You can't fix something that you don't see. You have to develop your eye through time of working on things and seeing it through the lens. And eventually you see what needs to change to make that better. And it's such a cool process to go through. So, yeah.
Yes. Michelle, I'm loving your energy. This is fantastic. Thank you for all this. So let's take a moment to sort of toot your horn with the all the various awards. I mean, I'm looking through a list here right now, and it's pretty much every year there's like multiple, and we're going through Mirror Awards, Contessa Awards. Mirror. I'm not going to go through every single one because, like I said, it's a huge long list. But your very first win was a Mirror Award in 2013. Here we are in 2023, so 10 years later, and you just came off of winning 3 Contessas at the end of November at the most recent show. So obviously, you've been able to not only sustain but sort of reinvent, yourself. I'm curious to know, where do you find your new inspiration and creativity to be able to continually sort of evolve as an artist?
Yeah. Oh goodness. Well, I think,
and where can at the same time, like where can other people look for their inspiration, right?
Yeah, definitely. I do sort of all year round think about shooting. There's got to be a passion behind it because, I was just in the airport like three 3 weeks ago or a month ago or something, and there was this painting in the washroom, and I sent it to my colleague. So I work now with a team, and I'm doing more of the cutting, styling, and texture and everything like that. And then I work with my colleague, Quinn Enright. So she's been doing the color, and I've been doing the cutting and the styling. And that's really just to push myself a little bit further, because it's something I want to work on. So I've been working with her. I sent her this picture of this painting in the bathroom. Oftentimes I'm looking at like magazines in the airport, or I had this like weird art piece that I got from HomeSense that inspired a whole creative shoot. We just did it for free. It's not even entered in anything, but it's one of my favorite shot. Like the shots are unreal. And it was just this weird like metal thing. So I think anything that interests you, like you see something cool, whether it's a palette of colors, and that could come from anywhere, like nature, from a home decor, like some blinds or curtains or whatever, like anything. If it looks cool, like put it in a folder and then just keep looking. I also love looking at Fashion Week. I feel like every season, you can look at, and they're always projecting ahead, which is so great. So you can look at, right now we're kind of mid-season, but they're showing online, thank God now that the interweb exists, but we have a lot more access to what trends are happening and what's happening for the next season. So you're looking at the spring summer collections already from different designers, and that the clothing is really inspirational. So I find doing wardrobe, I've started doing that a little bit more now. It's like, what's the vibe of the wardrobe, what's happening with fashion, and then kind of putting together like, okay, I want to have something that's like dark and moody, or I want to have something that's really geometric, or I want to have, looking at like the clothing and then starting to imagine what hair would complement these, like the clothing. So I look at fashion, I look at pretty much everything. And then what I was going to say, the other component of that is now I work with my, not exclusively, but we've done the last 2 collections together. My partner at work, which is Quinn Enright. So we met through Schwarzkopf. We both are full-time in education with Schwarzkopf. Neither of us work in a salon. So we've never collaborated because we couldn't collaborate over salon team because we didn't work in a salon. But she pushes me, like she makes me think differently. I make her think differently. So I think working with other people is probably the biggest change in my inspiration and my career in competitions, is really working with the team, because I did everything myself before, literally everything. And those are long 14-hour days, like prepping and shooting, and you're just exhausted. And it's so exciting, but no one feels it the way that you do if they're not really part of it. And so now I feel like a team is one of the best blessings in the world, is to work with a great team. It's so much better than being alone or like, getting all the recognition. Who cares? It's so fun to work with other people, and they always, bring different ideas to the table. So think if you're collecting all these ideas all year long, think what someone else could be bringing to the table. And if you're really open, like imagine it would just, so that's really helpful as well.
Yeah, and you combine all of those together, the different ideas, then you're going to create something better, and it becomes the analogy of 1 + 1 = 3. It actually really there's a lot of truth behind that, right? Obviously not in a pure mathematical sense, but when it talks about teamwork and brainstorming, you can bring 2 things together, and you can actually create something that's even bigger than just the sum of those parts. So
100%.
Great idea as well. I'm curious, I want to come back, because all of this started because you had that mentor in that first salon that you worked with that seemed to really work closely with you and meet with you on a regular basis and kind of challenge you and motivate you. And, she's the one that sort of inspired you to get into starting with photo shoots, and, look at where you are today. What would your advice be? Not everybody is in that situation where they're starting off in the career and they have a wonderful, salon leader or mentor that's kind of helping guide them or push them or challenge them. Do you have any advice for what people could do to try to, get themselves into a good situation where they do have a mentor that can help them in the early stages?
Yeah, I mean, I think you should really be looking for that when you are going to a salon is what kind of mentorship do they give? What kind of support, especially if you're really new to the industry. It's a really exciting time, but you want to find, like, go to the best salon that you can imagine. Don't feel like you have to start at a certain place or a certain level and work up to that. Like, go straight to the most inspiring salon that you know, the best salon in your town, city, whatever, and see. And you, maybe they don't have the space at that time to do a mentorship, but just really keep looking for that because I think it's so important to feel supported, coached, guided. And if you can't have that because it's not always available, ownership yourself. You can mentor yourself. You can be checking in on you every 3 months. Like, I mean, there's one, don't let anyone ever outwork you. That like you are responsible and empowered and capable to mentor yourself by checking in and looking at things, setting goals for yourself. And if your salon doesn't provide education, then you go out and get it. You bring the class to the table that you want to take, or you look, because it's really, I think sometimes we rely on the salon a little too much. Like, you need to take responsibility for your growth. I could have had those every 3 month meetings and done nothing. Like, you need to also. So I think that's part of it too, is mentor yourself if you don't have one, and just don't, even if you're in a situation where you have no mentorship and you're kind of on your own, just keep your eyes open for opportunities, and if there's a place you want to be, or a goal of a salon or an environment you want to be in, like, keep going after that, because there's always opportunity somewhere. And even if that door is shut right now, it could be open later. So connections and networking and showing up 100% all of the time can often get you to where you want to be, if you're clear about what you want. So yeah.
And if you work hard enough at it, and you're determined and you just go after it, you will get there. And I think that's the biggest thing. People often give up way too early, right? And
Yes.
I've one of my favorite quotes is that you never fail until you quit. So, quitting is the only way that you actually fail, because you've completely stopped. But otherwise, if you just keep working, if you keep trying, if you keep knocking on doors, you might not get there right away, but you will keep moving in the right direction, and eventually you'll get to where you need to be, and doors will open. You just have to be persistent, and find that sometimes in our world we always are just looking for the easy way out. But if you do the things that are hard and you push through, then life becomes so much easier down the road. So anyways, keep at it, everybody. Michelle, I want to talk a little bit about digital and social media, because you're also very active on social, and that's such a big part of our industry today, as you've been alluding to, that that we have access to so much more information to inspire us. We have opportunities to get our content out there. What is the purpose behind the content that you put out on your personal social media pages today?
Well,
not just posting
I think
pictures of puppies and whatnot.
right.
Like, there's a purpose behind what you're doing. I'm curious to know what you can share about that.
I think, I was really unsure about social. I remember I was at New York Fashion Week with a whole group of people in, oh my goodness, it wasn't that long ago. Maybe 6 or 7 years, whenever Instagram was started, and everybody had to raise their hand if they had an Instagram page, and most people didn't. And they said, "Raise your hand if you don't." And I had to raise my hand with this whole group of like stylists, and I did not have an Instagram page. So I did start a little late on Instagram, I would say, but the content that I've eventually come to is that my page is really for inspiration. I do post a lot of creative work. I hope that people will go there and be inspired. And then I love to show behind the scenes. So I feel like I have a good combination of like the real final product, but then also how did we get there? Behind the scenes is my favorite thing to see. I love that aspect because it shows the reality of what was actually going on. And so often when you see a picture, you have no idea, like, you know, how that even started or how it became to be what
What
it
went
is.
into it?
And yeah, totally. And I love, and I think hopefully people see that and not only like they'll learn a little bit, but also again be inspired. And so that's kind of what my page. I want someone to be able to go to my page and know I know what she's about as an artist. So it's
Mm.
kind of like a resume almost for me. And then I get into more personal, like funny, whatever. Not, I'm not that funny, but I love to laugh and I love to be lighthearted. And I think my Instagram stories are for that. Like I really try anytime I'm doing anything, I'm doing a story about it. And a lot of that doesn't make it to my page. So it's kind of gone into 24 hours. But yeah, so I do a lot of, sort of more, I guess, just personal, not really, you know, I don't have a dog or anything, so it's not like my dog, but it would be, you know, what's going on when I'm traveling, like what shoots am I at, what events am I doing? Like a lot of that really ends up on my story. So it's a fun place to go for that as well. So that's kind of where I've ended up Instagram wise.
Nice. And who's your target audience? Like who are you trying to talk to and have follow you?
The hairdresser for sure. I do I'm a guest expert on City Line, which is I do have followers from sort of the average, you know, person at home who watches a morning show, and they probably end up maybe following me because of that. And I do sometimes post, you know, especially on stories, things that would be more accommodating to the average sort of just like person trying to do their own hair at home. But for the most part, it's really for the hairdresser. I love in education. I'm meeting a lot. That's really my market that I'm speaking with.
You're serving, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Do you have any advice? Yeah, do you have any advice for style hairdressers out there when it comes to their digital and social media presence?
Oh goodness. I think, you know, I think it's just good to have intention. Like the question you just asked is really important. Like who is your audience? Like who do you actually want to speak to? What is your intention behind your page? And a lot of like when we take, you know, social media classes and things like that, because we do the upskill like upgrading and education with Schwarzkopf with our team. And the question is like, like does it provide education? Is it entertaining in some way? Or is it inspiring in some way, or is it all three? So if you're speaking to the client or the customer, you can still think of it with those three sort of pillars and go, am I educating my clients on, you know, why are they going to come to your page, I guess, and going in with some intention so that you can really curate and engage the people. Who cares if you have 100,000 followers if no one's really looking and you're not really giving any piece of value to those followers, you know? So I think we get a little too hooked on likes and followers, and it can feel discouraging or maybe just draining. But if you really
Yeah.
go in with intention, it can feel a lot more fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. The quality of your followers is way more important than the quantity of your
Mm-hmm.
followers. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and that's I ask certain questions for a reason, but that's definitely you know that being intentional is so important. I mean, we do tons when it comes to, you know, digital and social, and
Mm-hmm.
so very important. If people want to check you out on social and follow you, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me at Michelle Oliver Hair on Instagram. That is really my key platform. So I would say, yeah, give me a follow and say hello.
Awesome. And what does the future hold for Michelle Oliver? Like, where do you see yourself wanting to evolve in the next, I don't know, 5, 10 years?
Well, I just recently had a new career, I guess, milestone. I've just moved from being the education supervisor for Schwarzkopf Professional in Western Canada. I did that for about 7 years, but just last week, literally, I've started my new role with Schwarzkopf, which is the creative content manager for Schwarzkopf Professional Canada. So that is really, I mean, the next 5 years is going to be full dedication to understanding, committing, growing, and excelling in that role. And then, ultimately, I think I really just want to stay like success in for 10 years from now would be for me to be just as excited about this industry, what I do, what I'm talking about, as I am right now and as I was 10 years ago. So I think just staying passionate and constantly, I guess, evolving. It's such a crazy industry. You got to keep moving and challenging yourself. So I think this new role is going to really do that for me. And I'm really, really excited to see where it goes.
That is amazing. And I wish you all the best in that. Your passion is overflowing. Your energy is tremendous. So I have no doubt that you will, be able to continue that and to pass it on. I think that's one of your great gifts is your ability, especially, with your education experience to pass that on, to share that, to inspire others with that same passion and energy. I think it's so great for our industry. Michelle, we're going to close up our conversation today with one last signature question that we always do. Michelle, what advice would you give to someone who's either just starting their career in our industry or kind of looking to, revamp their career in our industry?
Well, I'm going to say, when you are, this is one tip that I've heard. I'll try to keep it short, but always remember that it's what you do behind the chair is 50% in service of the client and 50%, I think, for a long-term career in service of yourself, in the way that you have a lot to offer. You have a lot of ideas. If you keep pushing yourself to upgrade either your skills, your vision, your techniques, whatever it is, that means when you have a client in your chair and you bring just as much to the table about ideas and thoughts of where their hair can go and what they can do and what their look can be, it brings so much more value to the client relationship, which can make you so successful. And it also keeps you going. I think if whether you're new or whether you're in the industry for 20 years, it can become draining if you're not bringing any part of yourself. Like if you're just doing whatever the client needs, whatever the client wants, you also want to bring ideas and a piece of yourself to that. So I think, a 50-50 rule is the way I think, is a client's going to ask you, hey, this is what I want to do with my hair. And I'm the professional, and I'm going to say, I love that, but I also have this idea, or I'm going to say, you know what, that might be challenging for this reason, but I have this alternative that I think is going to be even better. And what do you think about that? And just really, the more you put in, the more you get out. So, just stay passionate. And whether that's education, taking classes, whether it's doing a photo shoot, whether it's mentoring another person in the salon, like do what it takes. It's like a relationship. It's not easy just because you love it. You still have to put intention and effort and energy. If you want to be in this career for 40 years, like it's not just going in 9 to 5, it's more than that. And that's part of what makes it so great is the fact that we can bring so much of ourselves to it. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
Very inspirational advice from an inspirational person in our industry. Thank you so much for sharing with us today, Michelle. It was great to get the scoop on your experiences and all of your advice for industry professionals. This has been so eye-opening. Lots and lots of nuggets in here. I hope people got a lot of value from it. Everyone, don't forget, feel free to share this if you feel like it can, benefit someone in the industry who's maybe, struggling with motivation or thinking about photo shoots. That's how we continue to kind of grow and help as many people in the industry as possible. Feel free to check out Michelle at Michelle Oliver Hair if you want to communicate and connect with her online. And Michelle, just a big thank you. It was wonderful having you on the show today, and appreciate your time and all of your amazing learnings and lessons.
Thank you so much, Scott. It was such a pleasure. I really appreciate you. Good luck with everything this year as well.